My wife had an affair and left me, and our two young children. Behind, why is she so heartless? Section 1. Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a story that starts with peanut butter fingerprints on the fridge, a dinosaur lunchbox left on the roof of the car, and a slow brewing suspicion you don't want to admit even to yourself. It's about the quiet unraveling of a life you thought was solid. About love that turns not into hate that would have been too easy, but into something colder indifference. And it all begins on a Tuesday. Because, of course, it's always a Tuesday. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you're all tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge in from work, both kids still strapped into their car seats, arguing over whose turn it is to hold the melted granola bar. The house smells faintly of old coffee and clean laundry. There's a pile of unfolded clothes threatening to become a landmark on the couch, and the dishwasher's been running since noon, but you didn't turn it on. She must have. That used to mean something. You glance at your phone as you toss your keys into the dish by the door another day, another string of silent texts. You try not to notice how her replies have gotten shorter, colder. You try not to notice how she never says, "love you" anymore, just K or worse, nothing. The kids run into the living room. Your youngest is still in pull-ups and just discovered the joy of hiding them in creative places. You have 30 minutes before the next meltdown. You push it all aside, your job stress, the loneliness, that growing quiet dread, and start on dinner. You've gotten good at juggling. You stir noodles, pack tomorrow's lunch, referee a Lego dispute, and switch over the laundry, all without breaking a sweat. You tell yourself this is normal. Marriage is hard. Parenthood is hard. You're probably just tired. But then the text. It's just a glimpse. Her phone buzzes while she's in the shower and you're passing by. You're not the jealous type, really. But when the preview reads, "Last night was perfect. When can I see you again?" Your stomach drops into your socks. You freeze. There's a moment, a second, that stretches like taffy. Maybe it's a wrong number. Maybe it's a friend joking. Maybe it's, but you already know. Because if history has taught us anything, it's that the signs are always there, hidden in the margins, faded ink, cracks in the plaster. The fall of Troy didn't start with the horse, it started years before, with quiet betrayals and ignored warnings. You think back, the late nights, the secretive smiles, the sudden interest in yoga, the way she stopped asking you about your day. You don't say anything that night. You don't scream or accuse. Instead, you load the dishwasher. You tuck the kids in. You sit on the edge of the bed and ask, "Is everything okay?" She doesn't even look up from her phone. Yeah, why wouldn't it be? And that's when you realize the scariest thing isn't that she might be lying. It's that she doesn't care that you know. That's when your chest starts to hurt in a quiet, low-grade way, like the warning tremor before a medieval bridge collapses into the river below. Remember, back in ancient times, Egyptian engineers would seal their tombs with elaborate pressure plates and sand traps. If you got too close to the truth, snap, collapse. Nothing but dust and echoes. You sleep that night in fragments, like a scratched record. Your dreams are a confused medley of your wedding day and watching your son cry because he can't find his toy robot. In the morning, everything is strangely calm. She makes coffee, packs her own bag, kisses the kids, doesn't kiss you. And you wonder if this is how Rome fell, not with fire, but with disinterest. Historians still argue whether the empire's collapse was due to economic overreach, barbarian invasion, or simply rot from within. Maybe it's all three. Maybe it's your marriage. There's a moment at the breakfast table when your daughter asks why mommy never eats with you anymore. You change the subject to pancakes. You feel like a ghost in your own life, floating from chore to chore, watching as the cracks deepen and widen, wondering if anyone else sees it, wondering if you're going crazy, but you're not. You're just paying attention. You start to notice how often she's running errands or taking time for herself. You catch the scent of cologne you don't own on her scarf. She avoids eye contact during dinner. She doesn't ask how your meeting went. She doesn't notice you at all. You could scream, you could beg, you could accuse. Instead, you vacuum the living room and silently ask Julius Caesar if he saw it coming when Brutus walked toward him that day. He probably didn't. Not really. Because you never expect betrayal from the ones you trusted to hold your heart. One afternoon, you ask her point blank. Your voice is calm, too calm. Is there someone else? She doesn't deny it. She doesn't confirm it. She just says, I don't think I love you anymore. And you think that's worse than anger, worse than screaming, worse than lies. Because what do you say to someone who has already left, even though they're still in the room? The kids are napping. The house is quiet. You sit on the edge of the bed and feel the walls lean in. Somewhere outside, someone is mowing their lawn. Inside, you're unraveling. It starts with a text. It ends with a truth you're not ready to hear. Section 2. The note is on the kitchen counter, written in that careful, tight handwriting she always used when she didn't want her emotions to show. Not even signed. Just, I need to go. I can't do this anymore. Please take care of them. You read it once, then again. It doesn't change. The cereal bowls are still on the table, soggy. Paw Patrol hums in the background. Your toddler is clutching a plastic dinosaur, still asking where mommy went. You stare at the words. They don't sting. Not yet. It's like your brain has short-circuited just enough to protect you for now. She left, just like that. You open the front door, expecting her car to still be there. It's gone. You check the closets. Her shoes are missing. The duffel bag you never noticed her packing gone too. There's no big dramatic exit, no slammed door, no suitcase rolling down the driveway while you plead for her to stay. She ghosted her own family. You wouldn't believe it if it weren't your life. And that's when the numbness begins. Remember how in ancient China, the terracotta army was discovered completely by accident? Farmers digging a well stumbled upon one of the greatest archaeological finds in history. It had been right there under the earth for 2,000 years, buried, silent. That's how grief works too. You don't dig for it. You just fall into it one day mid-toothbrush, or while stepping on a rogue Lego. That evening, you pour a bowl of cereal for dinner. The kids cry for her, and you try to smile and tell them she just had to go somewhere for a little while. You don't believe it. They shouldn't either. But lies roll off your tongue with terrifying ease these days. By bedtime, your daughter won't let go of your hand. You lie next to her until her breathing evens out, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars she insisted taping to her ceiling last month. The room smells like lavender shampoo and heartbreak. Your phone buzzes. It's from her. One line I'll call when I can. Please don't make this harder. You want to throw the phone through the wall. Instead, you mute it and plug it in. The silence roars. You remember learning about the Mayan city of Tikal, lost for centuries beneath the jungle. People used to live there, laugh, cry, build. Then one day it was just abandoned. Trees grew over temples. Life went on somewhere else. That's your house now, still filled with lunchboxes, toys, and tiny socks, yet unmistakably abandoned. The kids adapt faster than you do. They're resilient like saplings growing through sidewalk cracks. But the absence is everywhere. Every question about mommy is a dagger dressed in Dora the Explorer footy pajamas. You try to function. You still have work, deadlines, emails to answer. But now you do it all with a 2-year-old on your hip and a 5-year-old asking if she can marry you now that mommy's gone. You laugh, then cry in the pantry with the door shut. Mornings blur. You don't remember the last time you showered without someone banging on the door. You burn toast. You forget it's picture day. You find a sock in the fridge. One night while folding laundry, you find one of her shirts soft faded, still smelling faintly like her favorite lotion. You hold it to your face. You crumble. The laundry doesn't get folded that night. You wonder if she misses them. If she thinks about their giggles, their cereal faces, the way they pronounce spaghetti, you wonder if she dreams about them or if her new life has no room for lullabies. Historians still argue whether Boudica, the warrior queen of ancient Britain, led her revolt against Rome out of rage for her people or revenge for her daughters. What they agree on is this: when something is taken from you, you either fall or you fight. You haven't decided which one you're doing yet. A week passes, then two. No calls, no visits. Her family is quiet like they rehearsed this too. You're not sure who knew or how long they knew it. But the silence speaks louder than any confirmation. You make a chart for chores. You assign yourself stars for brushing hair and cutting sandwiches into dinosaur shapes. It's pathetic. But it's also the only thing keeping you from disintegrating. You start talking to yourself while cooking. It helps. Some nights you pretend she's still just running late, that she'll walk in, apologize, kiss their heads, and say she forgot the almond milk again. You think about reaching out to her. But what would you say? Come back, she wouldn't. The kids miss you, she knows. How could you? She already did. On the 15th day, your daughter wets the bed for the first time in months. She cries ashamed. You don't scold her. You just wash the sheets, hold her, and whisper stories about baby penguins who lost their moms but still waddled bravely into the cold. That night you lie in bed staring at the ceiling. You ask yourself the question you've been dodging since the note: why? Why would someone leave like that without a goodbye kiss? Without even a final scream, just a vanishing act and an emotionally explosive mic drop of apathy. You don't have the answer. Maybe you never will. But you know one thing now: you're not waiting for her anymore. You have two little lives orbiting you, watching everything you do. And whether you like it or not, you're the only gravity they've got. You rise the next morning before the alarm, make pancakes, braid hair, pack lunches. It's messy, imperfect, and still feels like walking with a broken leg, but you're walking. That's something. And as you lace your daughter's tiny sneakers, you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror by the door. Hair messy, eyes tired, but standing. And still here. Still here. Section 3. You're not fine, but you've stopped trying to pretend you are. That's progress, right? Each day begins with a groggy march through cereal spills, missing backpacks, and your son's newfound obsession with wearing rain boots no matter the weather. The chaos is familiar now. It's your version of normal. But the quiet moments, that's when it gets you. Like when you're brushing your daughter's hair and she says, "Mommy used to do it different," and you freeze mid-stroke staring into the mirror. Or when you're tucking your son in and he whispers, "Do you think she misses us?" And you want to lie but can't. The house still smells like her shampoo. You should throw it out. You don't. Every little thing carries a memory. The spatula she swore by. The playlist still on shuffle in the car. Even the pillow on your side of the bed slightly dented where she'd nap during Sunday cartoons. You start avoiding rooms. Whole sections of the house go dark, like forgotten ruins. That's when the breakdowns begin. Not dramatic ones, quiet ones. Like folding tiny socks and realizing no one else is coming home. Or hearing your daughter call for mama in her sleep, and you freeze in the hallway, not sure if you should wake her or cry beside her. Nap times become your unraveling time. You sit in the kitchen, cold coffee in hand, scrolling through photos you shouldn't be looking at. Vacations, birthdays, that blurry shot of her with icing on her nose while blowing out candles. Your chest tightens like you're being slowly crushed under invisible stones. You wonder how the ancient Greeks did it, those stoic philosophers and marble men who talked about pain like it was just weather. Epictetus, for example, believed you could train your mind not to suffer, only to observe. But Epictetus never had to explain abandonment to a kindergartner. You start talking to your dead grandfather at night, not out loud, but you find yourself asking questions about strength, about failure, about whether he felt this kind of loss when Grandma died. You miss him in ways you hadn't thought about in years. You're starting to understand why people kept diaries. Not for legacy, but for sanity. So you try it. You open a blank notebook and scribble, "She left. I don't know why. I don't think I ever will." Then you close it. That's enough for now. One afternoon, while loading the kids into the car for daycare, your daughter clutches your leg and says, "If mommy comes back, will you still keep us?" And you feel something tear. You kneel down, look her right in those hopeful, confused little eyes, and say always, "No matter what." She nods, smiles, as if you'd promised the stars. There's a brief victory when you realize both kids have eaten vegetables 2 days in a row. You even celebrate it with drive-through milkshakes. Because honestly, you deserve a medal just for keeping them alive and slightly less sticky than usual. But as night falls and the house returns to quiet, you're back in your head. You remember the ancient Roman practice of damnatio memoriae, literally condemnation of memory, where they'd erase a disgraced person's name from inscriptions, coins, statues, as if deleting them could erase the pain. You wonder if you should do that. Delete the photos, sell the furniture, burn the memories. You won't, not yet, because the truth is she still exists inside everything. The kids' laughter, the lullabies she used to hum, the stories you retell to calm them down. That's the cruel part of heartbreak. You don't get to choose what stays. A week later, your son spills juice on the carpet and has a full-on meltdown. You scoop him up, both of you sticky, and hold him as he sobs into your neck. He's too little to say it, but you know he doesn't miss the juice. He misses her, misses the shape of the family that used to be. And for the first time, you don't distract him. You just say, "Yeah, buddy, I know. I miss her too." He stops crying. Just like that. Like it mattered to hear it spoken. Historians still debate what caused the collapse of the Bronze Age civilizations. Was it natural disaster, war, internal chaos? Or maybe, as one theory suggests, it was just a system stretched too far. Too many changes. Not enough time to adjust. That's what this feels like. Like trying to rebuild a house while still living in the ruins. You talk to other parents at pickup. Smile when they say, "You're doing great." They don't see the dark circles, the 1,000-yard stare while microwaving dinner, the random moments when you have to walk into the garage just to scream into a towel. You read parenting blogs. They tell you to focus on self-care and breathe deeply. You try yoga. You fall asleep on the mat. One night after putting the kids to bed, you sit in your driveway. Just sit. Windows down, music low, the cool air brushing your skin. And for the first time, you let yourself feel it fully. Not the betrayal, not the rage, not even the heartbreak, but the whole. The one she left. The shape of her absence carved into every corner of your life. And instead of crying, you whisper, "I'm still here," like a lighthouse blinking in the dark, like a vow, like a reminder. Section 4. You read somewhere that Cleopatra had 3 epic loves in her life: Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, and perhaps, most enduring, herself. That last part makes you smirk in a tired, cynical way, because lately self-love feels like a punchline. You're lucky if you remember to eat something that doesn't come in a cartoon wrapper. But Cleopatra's story lingers in your mind. She was intelligent, multilingual, and politically ruthless, one of the most powerful women in history. Yet when her world crumbled, it wasn't in battle. It was in a room alone with a snake. Or maybe not. Historians still argue whether she really used an asp, or whether the whole venomous reptile ending was Roman propaganda. Still, the image sticks. Even queens get left behind. Even legends lose. And still life goes on. Sort of. Your own legend these days. Getting both kids and shoes and coats in under 15 minutes. You're practically a demigod if you can get them into the car without someone losing a sock or a moral compass. But the ghost of her, their mother, is everywhere. She calls once. A stilted 3-minute conversation that ends with your daughter crying and your son refusing to say hi. Afterward, your phone feels radioactive. You put it face down on the counter and pretend it didn't happen. She texts the next week, "I'll try to visit soon." You don't answer. Not out of pettiness, just preservation. Because how do you explain to someone that her absence now feels safer than her presence? That the kids stopped asking as much? That you started sleeping through the night again, at least sometimes? That the weight of her memory is easier to carry than her inconsistency? It's a hard truth, but it's real. Some people don't just break your heart, they puncture your peace. And you don't get to choose which is worse. You start researching single parenting out of necessity. The statistics are not great, but you learn that about 23% of U.S. children live with a single parent. That's not fringe, it's common. You're in a silent brotherhood now. Warriors of waffles and carpool lanes. You also find out that ancient Spartan fathers often raised their sons without much maternal input, not because the mothers were gone, but because boys were sent off to military training at age 7. You're not saying you're starting a toddler boot camp, but the idea of discipline sounds oddly comforting right now. You laugh at that thought, the first real laugh in days. It startles even you. It comes during a bedtime story. Your daughter keeps interrupting the three little pigs to ask logistical questions. If the wolf had asthma, would he still blow the house down? Why didn't the pigs just move in together? You wing it, you improvise, you survive. And afterward, as she snuggles into your arms, she says, "You tell it better than Mommy did." It hits you like a warm gust of air on a cold day, unexpected soft healing. You don't need to be her. You just need to be present. There's a shift in you, small but real. You stop checking your phone. You start playing music again in the mornings, real music, not the Paw Patrol soundtrack. You shave. You donate her old clothes, the ones she didn't take. You start walking the kids to school instead of driving just to feel the air. And one evening, while washing dishes, your son toddles in and says, "I like it when it's just us." You nod. "Me too, buddy." Not because you're glad she's gone, but because finally you've started liking the version of yourself that stayed. You journal again that night. Just 2 lines. Still angry, but breathing better. Pancakes were fluffy. Felt like a win. It's not poetry, but it's real. You get a call from an old friend, someone who knew you both. He fumbles through sympathy like it's an unfamiliar jacket, too tight, too stiff. You don't need his pity. But it's nice to talk to someone who remembers the you before this version. You ask him, "Was I blind? Was I too much? Not enough?" He sighs. You loved her. That's not a crime. You sit with that. Let it simmer. Because that's the part no one tells you about heartbreak. It's not just the loss. It's the self-doubt it leaves behind like soot after a fire. Did you push her away? Were you boring? Too stressed? Too tired? Historians debate whether Antony left Cleopatra for strategic reasons or pure desperation. Maybe it was both. But in the end, it didn't matter. She lost him anyway. You lost her too. But unlike Cleopatra, you don't have a mausoleum to hide in. You have 2 lunchboxes to pack and a sippy cup full of orange juice leaking onto the counter. There's no grand betrayal speech, no curtain call, just you still standing, still brushing teeth and tying shoes and putting on Toy Story 2, because Toy Story 1 is too sad now. You cry less these days, still some, but less. You even catch yourself singing while doing dishes. Badly, off-key. But your daughter joins in and your son claps, and for a moment, just a moment, it feels like a family again. Not the same one, but maybe one that's still worth fighting for. Section 5. You get really, really good at routines. The alarm goes off at 6:45 a.m. You're already half awake, having instinctively rolled over to check a monitor that's no longer there, just an old habit. The kids start stirring. Your daughter always needs 5 more minutes. Your son wakes up like he's been launched from a cannon. Pancakes 2 times a week. Cereal with bananas on the off days. Lunches prepped the night before. Notes in the lunch boxes because someone on Pinterest said it helps. You sign field trip forms. Remember spirit days. Even volunteer for the fall bake sale like some sort of over-caffeinated PTA gladiator. You're not perfect. The house looks like a cross between a toy factory explosion and a laundry room riot. But you're functioning, and yet grocery shopping feels like a battlefield. You're standing in aisle 6 trying to decide between two identical brands of string cheese when you see her. She's laughing, tossing a box of cereal into a cart. With him, he's taller, confident, wearing the kind of athletic hoodie you only buy if you go to the gym more than you talk about going to the gym. She doesn't see you, or if she does, she pretends she doesn't. And suddenly, you're 18 again, bracing for a punch that doesn't come from fists, but from the cold surgical cut of being irrelevant. You grab the cheese, turn the cart, and almost knock over a display of applesauce cups. The kids don't notice. Your son is busy singing to a banana. Your daughter's asking for fruit snacks. You mumble a yes and nod absently, still reeling. It's not jealousy. It's something deeper, something more twisted. It's the casualness of it. How fine she looks. How okay. As if she didn't walk out of your lives and leave you to explain why bedtime changed forever. Back home, you unload groceries like a robot. Your daughter asks if she can play outside. You nod. You go into the bathroom, close the door, sit on the edge of the tub, and breathe. You don't cry. You're not angry. But something hollows out in your chest, like a room emptied of its furniture. You think about ghost towns, places once full of life, laughter plans. Abandoned not by disaster, but by disinterest. Remember Bodie, California, once a booming gold mining town in the late 1800s. Now it's a frozen relic window still dusty with the breath of those who left. Your body now, a beautiful wreck that no one visits anymore. Later that night, you lie awake and ask yourself a question you haven't dared whisper until now. Was she always like this? Or did I just refuse to see it? Historians still argue whether Marie Antoinette truly said, "Let them eat cake." Most agree she didn't. But the myth lives on because it fits the story people want to believe of a woman so removed from reality she didn't see the pain at her doorstep. Maybe that's what your ex became. Not evil, just gone, removed. In her own narrative now. One where she isn't the villain, just the escapee. But you're still here, making dinners, holding tiny hands crossing the street, filling in the cracks so your kids don't fall through them. You start reading again. At first it's just kids' books, the Gruffalo Goodnight Moon Dragons Love Tacos. But then you rediscover the joy of reading for you. Something historical, something strange. Did you know that in ancient Mesopotamia, there were professional mourners? People whose job it was to grieve on behalf of others loudly, publicly. You could hire them to cry at your loss so you didn't have to. You wonder where they are now. You'd pay double. But grief doesn't need volume. It needs space, and silence, and time. And you're learning that too. One day your daughter tells you she doesn't want to make a Mother's Day card at school. Says she'd rather make one for you. You blink. Really? She shrugs. You do all the mommy stuff anyway. That one sentence offhand, soft, messy, knocks you flat. Not because it makes you feel better, but because it reminds you they see you. They know who's here, who's stayed. You cook dinner that night with a little more warmth. You let them help even though they spill the flour and fight over who gets to stir. It's a disaster. You don't care. Afterward, you all eat on the floor watching a movie. A random Wednesday. Nothing big, but something shifts. You don't feel abandoned. You feel chosen. Not by her, but by them. And maybe that's enough. Section 6. You used to think ghosts were quiet things, sheet white drifting in corners. But now you know better. The real ghosts walk through supermarkets. They sit in your passenger seat even when no one's there. They live in baby shampoo bottles and voice messages you never deleted. You thought you'd buried her absence. You didn't. Because there she is again. A different grocery store this time. Different guy. Same casual smile. She still doesn't see you. Or she does, and chooses not to. You're in the frozen aisle pretending to compare waffle brands while your chest burns and your hands shake. Your daughter tugs your sleeve and asks if they still make the kind mommy used to buy. You nod, swallow hard, and pick the one with the blue box. The box you've been avoiding for weeks. Later in the car, you blast music just loud enough to cover the silence, not loud enough to drown out the memory. You get home, unpack the groceries, and accidentally slam the fridge door hard enough that your son jumps. You pause, apologize, pull him close. And as he buries his head in your shirt, you wonder if your edges have grown too sharp, if the anger is starting to leak, if one day they'll tell stories about how you held it all together but never smiled while you did it. You remember reading about Pompeii, about how the city was buried mid-step, people frozen in ash cups still on tables. Entire lives pause mid-breath. The heartbreak of Pompeii isn't the destruction, it's the interruption. Lives unfinished, plans unfulfilled. That's what she did. She Pompeii'd your life. You've started therapy, quietly, online. The therapist has a gentle voice and too many scarves. She asks you once, when's the last time you felt safe? You tell her about the night both kids fell asleep in your arms after a thunderstorm. You almost cry, but you don't. You save that for the nights when you do dishes and hum to yourself, hoping the kids don't hear you break. You also read more now, not just to escape, to understand. Like how in medieval Europe, there was a belief in something called widow's fire, the inexplicable, grief-fueled restlessness that widows often felt after losing a spouse. Restlessness not born of lust, but of missing touch, the warmth, the presence, the reality that you once belonged in someone's arms. You feel it too, that fire. It flickers behind your ribs sometimes. Not for her, not anymore, but for someone. One night your daughter asks, will mommy ever come back? And you don't stall this time. You sit on the floor with her, eye level, gentle voice. I don't know, you say, but I do know we're going to be okay. She frowns, even if she never does. You nod, even then. She hugs you, hard, like she understands what you're not saying. You kiss her forehead and feel something inside you finally unclench. Historians still argue whether Helen of Troy wanted to be taken to Sparta or if she ran willingly. Was she stolen or did she leave? The truth is unclear, but either way, a war followed. That's what love can do, what betrayal can cost. And you're not waging war, you're planting peace, little by little, routine by routine. The kids now fall asleep faster. They've stopped asking about her every day. You've started watching shows again, grown-up shows. You even downloaded a dating app once, deleted it 3 hours later. But hey, you tried. You stop by the mirror one morning and don't look away this time. You study your face. It's not the same one that married her, not the same one that begged her to stay. It's stronger now, rougher, softer too in the ways that matter. You look like someone worth staying for. One Sunday, you take the kids to the park. The sun is warm and your daughter's laughing so hard she hiccups. A woman sitting nearby smiles at you, kind, open, curious. You smile back. It's not flirty, not urgent, just human. And it feels nice. That night you journal. Saw her again, felt nothing. Kids laughed in the sun. I laughed too. Maybe I'm healing. And you are. You really are. Section 7. You never meant to compare yourself to Joan of Arc, but here we are. There's something oddly comforting about knowing she was only 19 when they burned her alive for claiming divine purpose. The debates still rage. Was she truly a mystic, a brilliant tactician, a manipulated symbol? Historians still argue whether Joan ever wanted to lead, or if the crown simply needed someone young and fervent enough to throw into the fire. You relate. Not the burned at the stake part, thankfully, but the being thrust into a role you didn't ask for part, absolutely. You didn't sign up to do this alone, but here you are, doing it. And oddly, no one's cheering. No one's writing songs about your triumph over lunch boxes and midweek grocery runs. No one's commemorating your battle against the school's cutest parent bake-off expectations or your dramatic win over a stubborn Lego lodged in a vacuum. Still, you keep going. You've stopped measuring your worth by how many things you get done in a day. Now it's about moments, little flashes, like when your son draws a crooked crayon picture of the three of you and titles it Team Dad. Or when your daughter teaches her friend how to braid just like Daddy does. You don't know when it happened, but somewhere along the way the bitterness softened. Not entirely. You still flinch at family commercials, still avoid her social media. But now the ache is quieter. More like a bruise than a stab wound. You can press on it and it hurts, but it doesn't hollow you anymore. You've even started talking about her in the past tense. She used to love this place, or that was her thing, used to, as in not anymore, as in you've let go of the present tense. You're not sure if that's forgiveness, but it feels like a beginning. Your therapist suggests writing a letter to her, not to send, just to say everything you've held in. You resist at first. What's the point? But one quiet Thursday night after the kids fall asleep early, you sit down and let it all out. You could have said goodbye. You could have tried. You could have asked for help. I would have moved heaven for you. I did, didn't I? It ends with, but I'm not your lighthouse anymore. I'm not your shelter. I'm just a man raising two brilliant, beautiful humans who deserve more from you and got it from me. You cry. A lot. Then you burn the letter in a little tin pail out back. The flames flicker. The night air wraps around you like a hug you didn't know you needed. The next day your son tells you you're the best spaghetti maker in the world. You believe him. You also discover a podcast on obscure historical failures. One episode dives into the guy who tried to invent square watermelons. Another covers the medieval surgeon who believed headaches were caused by demons and prescribed mild trepanning. You listen to them while folding laundry and find peace in knowing even history is full of bad ideas with good intentions. You think of her less and less, and when you do, it's like remembering a chapter in someone else's book. One evening, your daughter finds an old photo album, your wedding photos. You brace for impact. She flips through silently, then says, "You look like a prince." You smile, and your mom looked like a queen. She nods, "But now you're a king." It shouldn't undo you, but it does, because she's right. You've stepped into the role, not the one you asked for, but the one they needed. And you're wearing that crown with grace, even if it's made of duct tape and tear-stained to-do lists. At school, drop-off the next morning, a teacher stops you, says your kids are kind, empathetic, grounded. You thank her then, sit in your car afterward, and exhale something you've been holding in for months. Relief, pride, peace, and maybe just maybe a whisper of joy. You journal that night. Joan got flames, I got fruit snacks and double hugs. I think I won. Section 8. They say the past always finds a way back to you. In your case, it arrives in the form of an envelope. No return address, just your name written in that unmistakable handwriting. The one you used to trace with your thumb across birthday cards and post-it notes on the fridge. You open it carefully like it might explode. Inside is a single page, not typed, handwritten, simple. "I'm sorry I left the way I did. I thought I was doing what was best for me, for all of us. I know I can't take it back, and I know I don't deserve anything from you. But I do think about them. I hope they're happy. I hope you are too." No name, no return address, just a quiet, clean apology. You sit with it, stare at it for a long time. You don't rage, you don't crumble. You just exhale. You remember how Emperor Hadrian of Rome commissioned poetry after the death of his lover Antinous, a boy who drowned under mysterious circumstances. The poems weren't grand declarations of grief. They were small, intimate aching. Like this note. Sometimes closure doesn't roar, it whispers. You don't tell the kids? Not yet. Maybe not ever. They don't need the confusion. They've stopped asking about her daily. The memories come less often, and when they do, they're manageable. But the letter lingers. So you tuck it into a shoebox. Not out of sentimentality, but acknowledgement. It happened. She existed. She left. You survived. And in the weird, ungoverned timeline of healing that counts as victory, you reconnect with an old friend, someone who knew you in the before times. They invite you over for dinner, casual, no pressure. You almost say no. You haven't been out in months unless it involves juice boxes and emergency diaper bags. But you go. You wear a clean shirt. You laugh. You forget for 2 whole hours what it felt like to be left. You just feel present. And after the kids are asleep that night, you stand in the hallway and realize you don't feel guilty about smiling anymore. That used to be the hardest part, didn't it? The guilt of joy. As if happiness were a betrayal of the pain. As if healing meant forgetting. It doesn't. Healing just means remembering without bleeding. You start letting the kids explore old photo albums again. Not because you want to dwell in the past, but because avoiding her shadow has become heavier than accepting it. They ask questions. You answer honestly but gently. Yes, that was the beach trip with Mommy. She used to make the best pancakes, didn't she? She loved you both very much, even if she didn't stay. You don't flinch saying it. You don't lie. And the kids, they take it in stride, like all kids do. Like sponges learning what love and loss really look like. One night, your daughter finds a picture of your wedding and says, "You look nervous." You chuckle. "I probably was." Were you scared she might leave? That one hits different. You take a beat, then answer, "I didn't think she would." But life surprises you. She nods like a philosopher. "Yeah, but I'm glad you didn't leave." You wrap her in your arms and whisper, "Me too." You start sleeping better, dreaming deeper. And when the dreams of her come, they're no longer nightmares. Just echoes, quiet scenes, blurred edges. Like watching an old movie you don't feel the need to finish. Historians still debate whether Nero really fiddled while Rome burned, or if it was just a rumor to smear his name. Truth or fiction, the story stuck. Why? Because it said something we all fear, that someone could watch the world fall apart and feel nothing. That's what her leaving felt like. And that's what your staying proved wrong. Because you felt everything. And you kept going. You start writing again. Not the heavy stuff. Just little snippets, memories, observations. You call them postcards from the past. The kids help decorate the covers. You don't know what you'll do with them yet. Maybe nothing. But it feels good to make something that isn't just survival. You even go to the museum, alone, stand in front of a Roman bust and marvel at how expressionless it is. Perfectly chiseled, emotionless, preserved forever. And you think, "I don't want to be stone. I want to be soft, real, human." You journal that night. She wrote, "I didn't burn it." Maybe that's forgiveness. Or maybe it's just peace. Section 9. You always thought the hardest part would be the leaving. But it turns out the hardest part is the after. The slow unraveling of routines you used to share. The realization that you can't remember the sound of her laugh anymore, but you can still hear her footsteps down the hall. It's been months now. The kids no longer ask about her regularly. When they do, their voices are soft, tentative, like they've learned there's something heavy in that space, even if they don't fully understand it yet. One evening, you're making dinner when your son, totally out of nowhere, asks, "Why did Mommy leave?" You pause knife halfway through a carrot. The room is suddenly too quiet, the air too heavy. You wipe your hands, sit at the table, pull him close. You don't lie, but you don't crush him with the whole truth either. She had some things she needed to figure out, and she thought she couldn't do that while living here with us. He frowns. "But we could have helped her." You nod. "I know, buddy. I thought that too." He's quiet for a while, then says, "I don't think I would ever leave you like that." You hold him, long and tight, feel his heartbeat thump against yours. You whisper, "That means everything." Your daughter wanders in wearing a blanket like a cape. She joins the hug without asking why. You sit there in a tangle of arms and warmth and realize this moment right here is the answer you've been looking for. They are the why, the how, the because. You tuck them in that night with extra care, longer stories, more songs. You don't check your phone afterward. You don't sit in silence and replay the past. You sit outside instead, under the stars, a cup of tea steaming beside you. You think about the philosopher Seneca, who once wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." He wasn't wrong. But maybe he didn't know that to love again, that's the real bravery. The next day, you get an email from the school asking parents to write notes for their kids to open during Feel Good Friday. You scribble too. To your daughter, "You are kind, wild, and smarter than I ever dreamed. You teach me how to be brave." To your son, "Your laughter fixes the cracks in my heart. I'm lucky to be your dad." You slip them in their backpacks like secret treasure. That evening, your daughter brings home a drawing. It's the three of you again. But this time, there's a fourth figure, a tiny ghost in the corner with a question mark above her head. "She's there," your daughter explains, "but not really." You blink fast. "Is that okay?" She shrugs. "Yeah, I like our team better." You tape it to the fridge. Later, when you're alone, you realize something profound. She, your ex, is no longer the main character in your story. She's a footnote, a side chapter, one that shaped you, yes, but not one that defines you. You're not writing a tragedy, you're building an epic. Historians still debate whether the lost city of Atlantis ever existed or if it was Plato's allegory for a world undone by arrogance and distraction. Whether real or not, the myth endures because it reminds us that even the grandest things can fall and something new can rise from the sea foam. You're not Atlantis. You're not lost. You're rediscovered, stronger, reclaimed, beautiful in the erosion. You donate the last of her things. Keep a few photos in a box, not to remember what was, but to show the kids what began them. You don't tell them how hard it was. You show them how far you've come. And one night, while roasting marshmallows over a small backyard fire pit, your daughter leans her head on your shoulder and says, "I hope I'm like you when I grow up." You kiss the top of her head. You don't say a word. You don't need to, because now you know you are enough. You've always been enough. And despite the heartbreak, the silence, the ghost stories in the grocery store, you stayed. You stayed. And in the eyes of your children, that makes you heroic. Section 10. It's a cool evening in early spring when you finally let the memory of her go. You're sitting by a small fire pit in the backyard, just a few crackling logs, a couple of marshmallows, two kids bundled in oversized hoodies that still smell faintly like laundry detergent and grass stains. They're giggling over how many chocolate chips they can cram into a single s'more. You're watching them, hands warm from the fire, and for once, not thinking about her at all. That realization hits gently, like an exhale you didn't realize you were holding. You're not angry. You're not waiting. You're just here, fully. It's not that you've erased her. That would be impossible and dishonest. Her ghost still lingers in some ways, but not like it used to. Not like it owned the air you breathed. Now it's more like the background of an old painting, visible if you squint, but no longer the focus. She was the storm. You are the house that's still standing. The kids fall asleep in a tangle of blankets. You carry them to bed one by one. You don't stagger under the weight anymore. You're used to the lift, to the quiet thud of sneakers falling off tiny feet, to the way they mumble nonsense in their sleep. You stand in the doorway of their room for a long time, just watching, listening to the hum of their dreams, and you feel it. That quiet thing. That thing you've been chasing through every sleepless night and cold grocery aisle. Peace. Not the loud, euphoric kind. Not the movie-ending peace. But something gentler, truer. You walk back outside where the embers glow orange and soft and sit again. You let the silence hold you. You remember learning about the Great Fire of London, how in 1666 it destroyed most of the city, reducing thousands of homes to ash. And yet, when they rebuilt, the city came back stronger, wiser, full of new ideas, wider streets, better design, a fresh chapter. You think of your life that way now, not destroyed, rebuilt, not scarred, redesigned. You journal one last time before bed. Just a few words. Not perfect, but free. And that's the last page. The next morning there's a new rhythm. It's subtle, but it's there. The way the kids laugh over cereal. The way you hum while brushing your teeth. The way you walk past the wedding photo still tucked behind old books on the shelf and feel nothing but gratitude. Gratitude that it happened. Gratitude that it's over. Gratitude that you are who you are now. You've stopped searching for explanations. Stopped measuring yourself against the myth of the happy ending. Because this messy, brave, beautiful life isn't an ending at all. It's the middle. And the middle is full of possibility. You've started talking about travel again. The kids want to see dinosaurs, real ones, or at least skeletons of them. You start planning a weekend trip to the museum. You pack snacks. You download audiobooks. You feel excited. That night, as you're locking up the house, your daughter pokes her head around the corner. "Dad," she whispers, "I think we're good now." You smile. "Yeah, kiddo, I think we are." You flick off the porch light and let the night wrap around you like a warm, well-earned blanket. Now let's slow everything down. Let the lights in the story fade until there's only that soft fire pit glow warm and flickering in your memory. You're sitting there again, marshmallows toasted just right, your favorite hoodie draped over your shoulders, the kids curled up safely beside you. Nothing to chase, no messages to decode, no shadows at the door, just peace. Let your breathing slow. In through your nose. Hold. Out through your mouth. Feel your chest rise gently. Fall again. This story didn't need a villain or a perfect ending. It just needed you to keep going. And you did. You carried the kids, the heartbreak, the nights without sleep, the mornings without answers. And somewhere in all that weight, you found your way back to yourself. Let that settle in your heart. You stayed. And for them, and for you, that made all the difference. Now drift. Let the last thoughts float away like tiny paper boats on still water. There's no urgency here. No unfinished business, just rest and breath. And the knowing deep in your bones that you've already survived the worst day. Tomorrow you'll be even stronger. But for now, sleep.